As a kid, I hated going to church. I hated having to go every Sunday with my parents and sit down and hear these boring sermons and sing these slow, boring songs and say these prayers that I didn't even know what they quite meant yet. But as I've matured as a young man and as I've grown up, I've come to actually appreciate the religious background and the religious teachings that my parents provided to me as an adolescent. Now, it's no secret today that in America and in the world, in the greater culture, that religion is under attack. You have groups such as the secular humanists and the militant atheists who say that the best way for us to prosper as a civilization and to move into the future is to end religion for all time. In this persuasive speech, I want to challenge this notion that the end of religion would mean a better civilization. And I'm going to do this by just illustrating a few points to show you that religion has helped us grow to where we are today as a civilization, and that secular humanism and atheism isn't quite as good as advertised. I'm going to start this speech off with a quote from Jordan B. Peterson. Jordan B. Peterson is a clinical psychologist and a professor at the University of Toronto. And when asked and talking about the subject of religion, he compared civilizations to a house. You have windows and doors and walls. And of course, underneath every good house is a strong and firm foundation. And he said that civilizations have grown and prospered because they had religion as that strong and firm foundation to give their people moral guidance and how to teach them ethical behavior and how to show them how to function as a human being and as an adult in the greater society. And I really like what he has to say there because he's absolutely right. Whether in the Buddhist culture, the Islamic culture, Christian culture, these rules and ethical teachings provided by these religious doctrines have helped these societies flourish because they've kept the people in check. They've helped them live more honest and more morally sound lives. Now, on the other flip of this coin, you have the atheists, the militant atheists. And I recently listened to a forum with the likes of Lawrence Krauss and, of course, Richard Dawkins, writer of The God Delusion. And they were asked by a rabbi. This rabbi came up to them in this forum and he said, well, for centuries my people, the Jewish people, have depended on the doctrines and the rules and the moral codes that are in the Torah to help tell them how to live their lives and how to grow as an individual. And he said, if we don't have that anymore, then what am I going to tell the people to do? What kind of rules do they need to live by? And Lawrence Krauss responded simply that they didn't need rules to live by. All they had to do was follow their instincts, and that would help guide them through life. But I would seriously challenge this notion that Krauss wants to bring up, that all we need as human beings is our instinct to teach us how to be good human beings. Because think about a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old child. You're constantly having to correct them because they constantly follow their instinctual behavior. So you have to tell them, don't hit your brother or your sister. Don't steal that, that's not yours. You have to do these things and correct them and teach them in order for them to grow into adulthood so that they know the rules by which to live a life and how to not harm and hurt others. Another thing that many secular and atheistic writers will tell you is that, atheism is based in science, right? It's based in proof and knowledge, and science is the way to go as a civilization. We need science to help give us the technological and advances to help us grow and flourish into a new civilization that can be possibly beyond our wildest dreams. And I have to say, you have to give science its credit. It's helped us with building smarter people through the use of the internet, and it's helped give us longer and better lives through the use of medical advances. But science cannot define everything that we do. I have a great quote here from religious apologist Robert Barron, and he said, the sciences are great for helping us figure out the chemical compounds that go into ink and paper, but the sciences cannot tell you why Moby Dick is a great piece of literature. And he's absolutely right there. The scientists might be able to tell you quantitatively, the numbers and the formulas that go into creating something new, but the sciences cannot tell you what is true and what is false, what is good and what is bad, what is considered evil and what is considered pure and right. And of course, we all know that Pontius Pilate asked Jesus right before he's crucified the great question of what is truth. Too many secular writers want truth to be relative to whatever the human being thinks, to whatever the imagination can create. But the fact is, that can lead to a lot of chaos. But religion and its doctrines and its teachings give us order because it says there is only one truth, and it is the truth that is presented in these books and in these teachings that have gone on through centuries. Many secular writers will try to tell you that, well, no one's ever been hurt or harmed for not believing in God, right? There's not been any sort of Jim Jones or David Koresh's or ISIS or Al-Qaeda that's come from atheism, but I would challenge that notion as well. Two of the men who were responsible for one of the greatest collapses of civilization in the 1940s in World War II were both Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, both who were highly opposed to religion and who believed with their atheistic principles that religion had to be stopped in order for their civilizations to grow and prosper. But you have this man in the middle of the rise of the fascist Nazi party. His name is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He's a pastor, he's a minister, and the Nazis at the time were going around to every church, Protestant and Catholic, and telling them, sign this pact of allegiance with us or have your church destroyed and die. Dietrich Bonhoeffer refused to sign that pact of allegiance with the Nazis, and in consequence, his church was burned down, and he had to go in hiding from the Nazis, and he began a seminary to try to teach young ministers how to fight against the rise of this fascist government. But it was because of his Christian ethics and his Christian principles that he was able to fight against and stand alone in one of the greatest collapses of civilization. Unfortunately, Bonhoeffer was later hanged for practicing his beliefs, but his legacy goes down today to show us that religion has a place in terms of standing up when great social injustices and wrongs are being done. Finally, I have a quote from a man named Neil Carter. Neil's based out of Jackson, Mississippi. He had gone to the seminary as a young man, but eventually lost his faith, and now he considers himself to be an atheistic, secular humanist. And he says, well, Western civilization has predicated the way we've lived our lives as individuals in terms of a narrative form on this super narrative of Jesus Christ, his life, his death, and his resurrection. And he says, and it's brought us to some pretty good moments in our civilization, and it's helped us prosper. He said, now it's outdated, and we need a new super narrative. And he begged the question in this article, what can our new super narrative be? And I would like to tell Carter that there is no super narrative. God is the super narrative. It's what we've predicated our lives on as a civilization, as a culture, and it helps us live sound, ethical, moral, and just lives. And you can't just simply take that away and expect our houses to keep standing. So we have to continue to fight for our religious beliefs and fight in practice to make sure that they never come to an end. Thank you.